Greetings, my friends. This is Celeria Rosenkreutz, and I ask you to allow me to tell you a story. In Surah 2:106, it is asked, "Know you not that Allah is able to do all things?" and stated that he can therefore abrogate or cause to be forgotten whatever revelation he wants, though with the caveat that he'll at least replace it with something better or similar to it. In 16:101, it goes on to say, "And when we substitute a verse in place of a verse, and Allah is most knowing of what he sends down, they say, 'You, O Muhammad, are but an inventor of lies,' but most of them do not know." Obviously, this is a reference of two things: cases where a substitution was made which spliced one passage of the Quran for another, see the Satanic verses, and also the phenomena of a newer verse replacing an older one with a meaning that contradicts that which the new one declares. Despite claiming in 1064, there is no changing the words of Allah, and thus that the Quran is eternal and everlasting, and despite the claim that Allah has revealed to you, O Prophet, this book of truth as a confirmation of previous scriptures and a supreme authority on them, as 548 suggests, following immediately afterwards with an emphatic instruction, "So let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed in it, and those who judge not by what Allah has revealed are truly the rebellious." It would seem Allah felt the need to actively curate what he was providing to the Muslims and change the policies laid out for them. Most curious that, and something that bears investigating. Therefore, let us look to 3 examples, while keeping in mind the better or similar qualifier from earlier. Firstly, we have the case of 2:217, wherein Allah instructs Muhammad, "They ask you about the sacred month, about fighting therein. Say, fighting therein is a great sin, but averting people from the way of Allah and disbelief in him, as well as preventing access to Al-Masjid Al-Haram and the expulsion of its people therefrom, are greater evils in the sight of Allah. And fitna, to create disorder, is greater than killing. And they will continue to fight you until they turn you back from your religion if they are able. And whoever of you reverts from his religion to disbelief and dies while he is a disbeliever, for those their deeds have become worthless in this world and the hereafter. And those are the companions of the fire. They will abide therein eternally." That is, do not fight during Ramadan if at all avoidable. Only do so to defend the path to the home of the Kaaba, and otherwise protect pilgrims. This, however, is abrogated by 9:36. Given 9 is the second to last surah as far as chronological order of delivery is concerned, which reads, "Indeed, the number of the months with Allah is 12 months in the register. The day he created the heavens of the earth, and 4 of these are sacred." That is the correct religion, so do not wrong yourselves during them, and fight against the disbelievers collectively as they fight against you collectively. Know that Allah is with the righteous who fear him. Thus, the Muslims are free to fight their enemies on any month at all, no questions asked, as long as it is against those who are not amongst their own number. However, they should avoid fighting each other on 4 months, rather than just 1. The second example I would like to present is the following ayat. Surah 48:29 reads, "Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and those with him are ruthless or firm, with the disbelievers and compassionate with one another. You see them bowing and prostrating in prayer, seeking Allah's bounty and pleasure. The signs of brightness can be seen on their faces from the trace of prostrating in prayer. This is their description in the Torah, and their parable in the Gospel is that of a seed that sprouts its tiny branches, making it strong. And then it becomes thick, standing firmly on its stem to the delight of the planters. In this way, Allah makes the believers a source of dismay for the disbelievers. To those of them who believe and do good, Allah has promised forgiveness and a great reward. Now, it is worth noting that scholars of the Islamic faith apparently argue that this must be taken in historical context, and that this was specifically to be understood as true whilst Islam was at war with the polytheists at Mecca, and cite Surah 60, 8 through 9, which read, Allah does not forbid you from dealing kindly and fairly with those who have neither fought you nor driven you out of your homes. Surely Allah loves those who are fair. And also, Allah only forbids you from befriending those who have fought you for your faith, driven you out of your homes, or supported others in doing so. And whoever takes them as friends, then it is they who are the wrongdoers, as a better, more general rule. However, this is wrong-headed. For one, Surah 48 was one of the last surah to be delivered, coming just after Muhammad signed the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, which at least temporarily ended the hostilities with the dwellers of that city. And of course, you can confirm this through many sources. Meanwhile, 60 came significantly before, shortly after Muhammad had fled Mecca. As such, because there is a clear contradiction, 48:29 should be taken as abrogating, at least in the sense of being the norm, what 68 through 9 is saying, and espousing that such ways are in fact only to be considered reasonable when Muslims are in a position of weakness rather than strength, at best. The fact that Surah 5 immediately follows 48 should also be taken as strong evidence for this paradigm, given that Surah 5:51 agrees with 48:9, saying, O you who believe, take not the Jews and Christians as awliya, which is friends, protectors, helpers, and so on. They are but awliya to one another. And if any amongst you takes them as awliya, then surely he is one of them. Verily Allah guides not those who are the zalimun, polytheists, wrongdoers, and the unjust. This leads us to our final example, for you see, the Quran did not always have such a hard line against Christians and Jews. In fact, it used to emphatically maintain back when Muhammad had just arrived in Medina and delivered his first surah there, now known as Surah 2. Indeed, the believers, Jews, Christians, and Sabians, whoever truly believes in Allah and the last day and does good will have their reward with their Lord, and there will be no fear for them, nor will they grieve. Did you catch that? One might argue about the first example, but in the latter two, the changes are too great to allow these verses to be called similar in any way. I mean, my goodness. In one verse, Allah numbers Christians and Jews amongst the faithful, while in others, he equates them with polytheists, declares Muslims will be a source of dismay for their kind, and advises his followers, don't take the Jews and Christians as friends, because they're only friends with each other. Of course, allowing the Muslims to fight all other people, even during their holy months, might have been better for them. But the fact that the Quran had to be abrogated at all to allow that shows a supreme lack of foresight and intellect on the part of its author. For these reasons, and many, many more, I hope it has become abundantly clear that any claim the Quran is unchanging, perfect, or even properly clear in what it asks of its believers is absolutely nonsensical. New verses radically disagreed with what had come before them, affecting the text and the requirements for Islam's followers in ways that are very much not obvious, unless you keep in mind what came when. It is an absolute mess, and nothing close to what one would expect to come from an all-knowing creator. So I conclude, the deity portrayed in the Quran boasts of his wisdom, knowledge, and power, but he cannot back it up. Such a spirit is not worthy of being followed. So do not